So with that, we got the head coach at UW, Jedd Fisch. Coach, I can't help but every time I talk to you, I think about when we met in '09 in a restaurant at the top of the Hyatt in Bellevue, both interviewing in Seattle for the Seahawks. You, of course, went to the Seahawks. Now you're back in Seattle, year one of UW. Like, when you think back to that moment, to here we are more than 10 years later, I'm curious your first reaction.
Yeah, it's every now and then it brings back good memory when I see Pete at most of our games, or I ran into him after we beat Michigan in BC's office, and that was great memories. And I remember being up there on the at Ruth Chris one time there, my first night on the job, meeting Pete Carroll for the first time, kind of awestruck. Of just like, I don't know, I was what was it, 14 years ago now. So I mean, I was 34, and Pete Carroll was Pete Carroll, and it was just a super cool thing. And then Sark was the head coach at UW, and I remember, going out with those guys and Nussmeier and Sark, and just getting to meet them one night, and it was cool. It was just a super cool experience, and to be back here now, pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, and congrats on everything along the way. It was a blast getting to know you then, and of course staying in touch with you and your incredible family since then. I'm going to be calling your game this weekend, so looking forward to that. We'll be going to Indiana, UW. It's a huge game, of course. College Game Day will be there. We'll get into that in a minute. But it's a little over 9 months since you've taken the job at Washington, and a lot has gone on, right? The college football world has flipped upside down, has turned left and right a million different times. But I'm curious for you, as you've settled in, like, what is the best part of your job and the seat that you sit in now at Washington?
Um, I'd probably say the best part about being here is the competition that we get to play every week. Like it's something special. The Big Ten, I mean, we have the next three road games. The three teams that we're playing are 21-0. We play at Indiana, at Penn State, at Oregon. And in between, we have home games against USC and UCLA. So, like, the schedule, the NFL feel to it, that every week is a huge week. The pageantry, the sellout crowds. I would say by far that's been the best part of the 9 months. There's been some challenges along the way of recreating a roster, recreating a team. So there's always been, you want to be able to always put your best foot forward. At times we have, at times we haven't. But the idea of being in this conference is probably the best part.
Okay, I've heard you say that a few times in comp to the NFL. To your point, like this weekend's game, I think it's around 90 players for both teams who are not on either team a year ago. Right? That doesn't happen in the NFL. So how have you gotten to know guys? Like, how have you made sure that the connection, that element among you and the players that are now on your team, is at a premium in an area that can be relatively transactional in terms of rosters changing and ebbing and flowing pretty consistently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a premium because that's the way I like to coach. I like to relationship coach. I like to know the guys. I like to know what makes them tick. I like the interaction, the one-on-one, the group setting where they trust me that I can make a correction and they don't feel like it's personal. Yet I like the personal aspect of coaching. It's a little bit more challenging in year one because you need to put a team together. The first thing you have to do is get enough people. When I got here, there was 44 guys on scholarship, and I got hired here, after the portal closed and after signing day. So, our situation was even more unique than Indiana's situation where you get hired November 30th. So we had to find players. We didn't have spring. Like, we had 20 of the we had 66 scholarship players that participated in spring football. So until we have 84 scholarships right now, 18 of those guys didn't even participate in spring ball. So this year's different. This year's unique. I don't ever expect it to look like or feel like this again, really. It's not how I want to build our program. I don't want to build our program with, the mercenary approach. I want to build it with relationships and watch development of players. With our coaching staff, I really trust BC and Steve and Jimmy and Powell and Casey and all the guys that I've had with me for a while now, Kafus and Jay Rich and Scotty Graham. And, let them be in T.O.'s strength and conditioning program. Let them be coached by our guys and not get caught up in always just trying to grab a guy for a year.
Yeah, you've always been a relationship guy. In that regard for this year, I just keep looking at you as the head coach and think back to like how that definition of head coach has just dramatically shifted, right? You're the play caller, you're the head coach, you're the CEO, you're the fundraiser, and you're putting together a new roster, as you just referenced. Like, how have you been able to be in the weeds, yet zoom out and still be that CEO? And I'm curious your process of navigating that literally week to week.
Yeah, it's been tricky. Try to throw in the word and the dad and a
dad, husband. I'm sorry, Amber.
And a husband, right? Yeah, let's we got to make sure Amber gets her credit too for this, because this has been that year one transition is always right the biggest challenge of trying to be everything, right, and not get caught up in doing everything but not doing anything well. You got to be able to do both, and I've just really kind of committed that the best thing I can do is try to develop a team camaraderie and a team chemistry. I'm very fortunate that every offensive coach came with me. So everything we're in year 4 as a staff offensively, right? BC, Jimmy, Scotty, KC, Pow. And then 3 of our GAs came with us. So like that group, that core is able to do some things that 4 years ago they couldn't do without me. Now they do. On the same token, I never want to give up being in that meeting and watching that practice tape. So their hours haven't been as good as they probably would like them to be, because you got to be a head coach too. And team meetings are the most important in year 1. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So I've spent a lot of time focusing on the messaging with our team, fundraising and building relationships with donors. We are getting $35 million less dollars at Washington than the other 16 Big Ten teams are getting. Oregon, maybe gets subsidized, maybe they don't. I don't know, from some donorship, but Oregon and Washington are half share programs. So we need to really build that relationship with our donor base and our fundraisers. So there's some things that normally I wouldn't do in season that I need to do to make sure we can galvanize and cultivate those relationships. And then culture, man, it's like they got to understand where I'm coming from. I got to understand where they're coming from. And, Washington has been a program in 25 years that has ups and downs and ups and downs. And, 3 years ago, they're 4-8. A year ago, they're 14-1. So, we understand. We want to try to build a consistent culture. We got to stay here. We've had players on our team that have had 4 head coaches that are, in their 5th or 6th. Cam Fab has played for 4 head coaches. So we got to build consistency. We got to build a culture of love. We got to build a culture of trust. And then on top of that all, we have to find a way to continue to get better in ball.
Last couple before we cut you loose here, Coach. If you took this job, call it 7 years ago, versus the mentorship, and I haven't been in your new office. I can't wait to check it out. But I remember your old office, and there were quotes from a lot of your mentors. And I remember Sean McVay, Bill Bellichick. You've already referenced Pete Carroll. But if you didn't have the Sean McVay experience, if you didn't have the Bill Bellichick experience, I'm curious how you would have been able to navigate what you're navigating now. So what do you think you've taken from 2 or 3 of those mentors more recently in your career that you've applied to the scenario you just described?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even we all think we're ready, right? We all think we're ready when we're 30. Then we all think we're ready when we're 35. Then we all think we're ready. But I really do believe that, like the Garth Brooks song, sometimes you thank God for unanswered prayers. I really believe that, I needed that time with Sean. And it wasn't just with Sean, who how much I love Sean, but I mean, down my hallway was Zach Taylor was in the office next to me, Shane Waldron in the other office, Zach Robinson, Liam Cohn, Wes Phillips, Wade Phillips, Chris Shula. That was the hallway. Those guys are all NFL coordinators right now. Matt LaFleur's office is who I moved into. So the amount of like football knowledge and relationships and resources in that one hallway in 2018, 2019 is an enormous help to me. And then leaving there to go to New England, like number one, I met Steve, and now he's our defensive coordinator doing a fantastic job here. But number two, to be able to build that relationship with Coach Belichick and be able to use him as a resource on a weekly to almost daily basis has been incredible.
Is there something you can point to like, yep, that was an example, or I either leaned on that hallway or leaned on Coach Belichick?
I mean, I lean on that hallway and continue to lean on that hallway weekly. And Shane and Zach and I probably are on a text chain on a daily. But like all of us, there's just times like making this decision to leave Arizona to go to Washington. I leaned on 3 or 4 of those guys. Making the decision on, how to build a roster. Coach Belichick and I spent about a week together talking about, where was the emphasis going to be in year 1? Where was the emphasis going to be in year 2? And how are we going to create enough of a culture in year 1 that the year 2 emphasis can take it over and then run with it? And, we'll see what it looks like here between 1 and 2. But I really believe these next 5 games are going to be critical. So I rely on Coach. I rely on Sean. I rely on that hallway a lot.
Okay, so let's get to the game here. Can't wait to be calling it 9 a.m. Pacific, which I've gotten used to saying now, right? Noon Eastern. We'll both
be. We just say noon. We just say it's at noon. We don't talk here like it's 9 a.m.
Okay, cool. Yeah, noon Eastern. I'm with you on that. Okay, away we go. We'll all be in Bloomington. I think you guys fly out Thursday. I fly out Thursday this week as well. With that said, when I look at your schedule, and you reference your defense, it's statistically one of the best in America, and it's really been fun and enjoy to prepare and watch them. But you've kind of faced, in my eyes, like the traditional Big Ten, and now here comes like pass happy Big Ten or like quarterback Big Ten. Even with Curtis Rourke being out, Taven Jackson he's an Elite 11 quarterback. He's talented, as you know. What is it like in that regard, or what might you anticipate this weekend coming off a stretch of dramatically different offenses compared to what you're going to see?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a great test. This has been like it's the halfway point and truly the halfway point. I mean, I know we played 7 games, not 6, but I mean, it is the bye week came at a great time for a reset. You just got a huge win against Michigan. Then you get a very disappointing loss against Iowa on the road. And I mean, those were the 2 teams that played in the Big Ten championship game last year. And now we're in the world of the new wave, right? Indiana, completely new. SC, Pac-12 team that moved over. Then Penn State is playing at an elite level, top 5 program in the country. Then back to UCLA, Pac-12 team, finish with Oregon, Pac-12 team. So it's so unique that we're now in that world again to finish this season off. So it has been a whirlwind. It's a great test for our defense. It's a great test for our offense. And it's a great test for really the building the foundation of our program.
Well, I can't wait to call it. I hope you get on the set at College Game Day. We'll be tuned in and see if it happens. I know it's right up to kickoff, so it might be tight, but I can't wait to see you and your program on the field in my first game calling UW this season, which is weird too in the Big Ten, Coach. So thanks for the time.
Well, it's great to have the expert calling the game. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, brother. And lots of love, of course, to Amber and the crew. Without them, none of this happens. They get the MVP. That's right. All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks, pal.